Parents forced me to stay local, so my brother wouldn't feel inferior. Now he's bankrupt, and they're sleeping in a trailer, begging me to come home. My father has always viewed me as the ignored child in the family. He was simply enamored with my brother. He keeps talking. You know what? I don't care if you got accepted to some prestigious college. You have to go to the local college because we don't want your brother to be jealous of you. So, you know what, guys? I pretended everything was okay. I stated, you know what, Dad? Okay, fine. I'll go to that college on one condition. I get to stay in the dorms. I was lying. I claimed to live in the dorms and went to the prestigious college on a scholarship that he was unaware of. However, when he finds out, he will erupt. What would you do if someone who hadn't acknowledged you in 3 years suddenly asked you to show up and act like a family member for one day? That would be a pretty difficult situation, right? I mean, it will always be like that with family, especially my own. Let me start from the beginning. My name is Jonas, and if you haven't guessed by now, my family is rather dysfunctional. And I mean it, if it is even a family. What do you call the people who gave birth to you, but then abandoned you once they discovered a better version of you? Can this even be termed family? Instead, than going in circles, let me express it clearly. My family may have been happier if my parents had treated their 2 children equally. But no. My parents are a bunch of biased bastards who have been treating me as background noise for as long as I can remember, all because my brother Roman was the healthier kid. I mean, Roman was one of those healthy, adorable infants who caught everyone's attention right away, whereas I was the puny average-looking one that no one wanted to hold. But should these factors have such a significant impact on parents that they begin to differentiate between their children? It shouldn't, right? My parents, Patrick and Marin, however, experienced something different. Within a month of his birth, Roman had become their golden child, the infant who elicited overwhelming admiration. I mean, he wasn't exceptional. He was simply the more appealing person, or the main character, as they say. So he had everyone's attention, whereas I was usually the supporting character, standing in the background and being overlooked. You might imagine how horrible my childhood had been. My parents ignored me, only providing for my minimum requirements, while my narcissistic brother absorbed all of the attention. Roman grew up as a spoiled brat who only thought about himself. So you can see what kind of relationship we had. I was the shy, introverted kid, and Roman turned out to be a big, gigantic bully. Can you imagine being bullied by your little brother? That was the case with me. And Roman appeared to have made it his life's mission to make me unhappy, whether by screaming huge tantrums that caused my parents to ruin my plans, or physically taking away the things I like. Is this right? It was an unfortunate situation in and of itself. Add a set of biased parents to the mix, and you can see how bad my childhood was. My parents were the primary reason Roman grew up to be such a brat. Roman had new toys, attention, and praise, but I was never spoiled. My birthdays were a formality. My achievements were modest, and my role in the family was mostly that of a backdrop prop. In 3rd grade, I had an all-A report card. I was ecstatic, you know. I thought I'd receive a pat on the back or something, but when I showed it to my mother, all she said was, "That's good." Before going on to brag about what a lovely little painting Roman had done that we simply had to hang on the refrigerator. Yes, Roman's weird dog drawing took center stage, while my straight A report card was discarded alongside the other forgotten papers. So you know how it was? I felt like the underappreciated report card, while my brother received praise for everything. But it wasn't just the minor details. Roman got to choose where we went on family trips, what we ate for dinner, and what we watched on television. Every time I tried to pick something, I was shut down, and that moron Roman shoved it in my face as hard as he could. He was the king, and I was nothing more than a servant. So you can see why I wanted to leave this hellhole as soon as possible. I even had a fantastic opportunity. I was looking to get a bachelor's degree and was given a scholarship to one of the world's best universities. It was a very prestigious college, the type that guarantees a successful career for its graduates. Obtaining a scholarship there, what a dream. But there's a catch. It was several states away. And like everything else in my life, my parents would not let me have it. Do you want to know the reason? Of course it was Roman. My parents even suggested that I attend the local college in our state, because it was a better opportunity and option. They reasoned that since Roman, who was not particularly bright academically, might feel bad that I had the opportunity to study at such a prestigious college while he did not, I should stay local. What was preventing him from proceeding? He could have worked his buttocks off like I did and gotten what he wanted. However, none of this made sense to my parents. They told me I needed to attend the local college. Do you realize how ridiculous this situation was? I assumed they were doing this to prevent me from outshining Roman. It was as if they saw my potential, but chose to ignore it, as if offering me true aid would compromise Roman's reputation as a golden child. Why else would they push so hard for me to stay at the local college, when Roman, who was nothing near as ambitious, received unequaled support? It seems like I was not supposed to be more successful than him. That was not in their script. But did I submit to that folly? No. I'd already made major sacrifices to keep up with the family's bizarre, biased behavior. But I decided I'd had enough. I told my parents that I would only go to the local college if they let me reside in the campus dorms. My parents agreed too enthusiastically, thinking they had persuaded me to stay at the local college. But did they really? Not a chance in hell. I accepted the scholarship and moved states away, while my parents thought I was attending a local college. The best part was that the prestigious college to which I was admitted offered the finance course I wanted in just 2 years, whereas the local college required 4. So that was wonderful, since it allowed me to graduate earlier than my parents had intended. Honestly, that was the best decision I'd ever made. Not only did I leave the hellhole that my parents had built, but this college symbolized the peak of success. I say this because shortly after graduating, I was offered a 6-figure salary and have already been with the company for 1 year. Things are actually better for me, since I am on the verge of being promoted. I did everything. The scholarship covered 70% of the fees, and I used the money my father gave to cover other costs. Now I'm living a beautiful life. My father continues to give me money, assuming that I am a student at the local college, and I have not told him to stop. I know that's bad, but I consider it revenge for the past 3 years. I've had limited contact with my relatives. To discourage them from becoming suspicious, they made a few checkup calls and 1 or 2 trips to my house during the holidays. Aside from that, they haven't bothered me too much, and I've managed to avoid them by stating that I've been preoccupied with my studies. They don't appear to care. So why should they? They had a golden child. My parents benefited from the fact that the only person they needed to care for was no longer in their lives. I was quite delighted with the setup. It hurt at times that my parents didn't care enough to know I had moved states away, but the anguish was outweighed by the comfort of no longer having their toxic presence around me. To be honest, I missed my family. Not a dysfunctional one like mine, but the feeling of having a family who actually cared about me. Despite my friends and joys, I felt there was something missing in my life. However, until this morning, it seemed tough to repair. My father contacted me today to let me know that Roman was getting married, and that he needed me there a few days before the wedding to help with the preparations. I was taken aback. Was my father really begging me to return home? I'd been looking forward to this moment for a long time, especially since he told me I was a member of the family, and that he wanted everyone to be present on Roman's important day. I actually grew emotional. My parents had never accepted me as a member of the family. They were mostly concerned with themselves and Roman. However, my father insisted that I attend the wedding. It was humbling to receive gratitude from my parents. But then I realized that these were the people who had ignored me throughout my youth. Even now, they were unaware that their eldest son resided several states away. Do I really want to go back to these people, simply to be ignored again, as I have been all my life? This is where I find myself in a quandary, and I'd like to ask everyone, what would you do if you were in my shoes? I miss my sense of family, and it would be amazing if they cared about me for once. But the thought of returning only to have my expectations crushed again frightens me. Should I accept their offer and go to my brother's wedding solely for the sake of family? Or should I stick to my promise to live far away from them and not let them hurt me anymore? It's been 2 days, and I've had plenty of time to think about what I should do. Finally, I resolved to keep my peace. Even though some of you may disagree, I decided not to accept my father's invitation to Roman's wedding. Honestly, it feels like the best decision I've ever made. Spoiler alert, my parents have not and will never change. Let me resume where I left off in my first post. After some thought, I texted my father, just saying that I wouldn't be able to make it. There's no lengthy explanation, no excuses, to be honest. I wasn't planning to come. I expected a reaction, but I did not expect the manipulation to begin so soon. Within an hour, my phone was overflowing with text messages. First, my mother tried to guilt-trip me, asking whether I really wanted to miss Roman's big day, if I wanted to be that brother, and how unhappy Roman would be if I didn't show up. She talked about how much it would mean to Roman if his older brother was present. Truly. She also tried to pull the "you only get one family" card. But here's the thing. Roman's big day meant nothing to me because he never cared about any of my important dates. Not one. And yes, you only get one family. But only if they behave properly, you know? So I told my mother the same thing. I wasn't coming. When guilt-tripping failed, my father turned to his own odd ways. He attempted to remain cool at first, saying things like how families should stick together in instances like these. When I still did not move, he decided to get dirty. He called and told me that if I didn't show up for Roman's wedding, they would stop paying my tuition. He claimed that they could not afford for others to gossip about why one of their sons was not present at such an important event. Essentially, they wanted to project the image of a happy family to their friends and neighbors. It was all about appearances, as always. This is not about me or Roman. But how did outsiders perceive the family? That's when I completely lost it. I mean, how selfish could someone be to threaten to stop paying my college tuition just so I could go to a wedding? It was extremely foolish. Even more so because I didn't care about any of the money they gave me. I said to my dad, "Go ahead. Stop paying the college fees. I'm not coming to the wedding, and nothing you say or threaten will change that." I still hadn't told them that I had graduated a year ago and was living in another state with a 6-figure job and a life they could never have provided for me. I didn't want them to know how fantastic my life was, or where I was because they would ruin it. I know I'll have to tell them the truth eventually, and I will. Soon. But right now, I'm having fun. My refusal to attend my brother's wedding, despite my father's warnings, outraged him. He talked about how ungrateful I was, how difficult I had always been, and how he planned to withdraw my name from the local college to teach me a lesson. He said it as if it were a great threat, as if being dragged from somewhere I'd never been before would destroy me. He had no concept that the truth was exactly the contrary. Seriously, I couldn't stop giggling. I could have informed him that I was never enrolled at the local college. Where is the fun in that, guys? So now I'm just waiting for my father to go and try to withdraw my name from a college where I've never enrolled. I am honestly waiting for his reaction. He'll be surprised to learn that I no longer need him or his money, and it's only a matter of time before my phone rings with another round of obscenities. I honestly can't wait. Anyway, I'll keep everyone updated on what happens. Until then, so long. Hello. This is Jonas again. I know it's only been a day since my last update, but the never-ending drama in my life has become much more intense. Following my previous piece, I had a feeling my father would take my refusal to attend Roman's wedding seriously. It turns out I was right. It all started with a phone call from him this morning, which made him furious. He was furious, and spent no time in asking me where I'd been all this time, and what I'd been doing with all the money he'd paid for my college fees. It was similar to watching a child throw a tantrum because he didn't get his favorite toy. Except this time, it was my father, who was driven nuts by the events around him. Apparently, after our previous conversation, my father attended the local college. Yes, this is when things become very exciting. He went there to withdraw my name in order to teach me a lesson. That guy was insane enough to believe that withdrawing my name from college and suspending my studies would force me to attend Roman's wedding. Clearly, he was incorrect. So naturally, when my father visited the local college, he was in for a big surprise. The local college had no record of my enrollment. It must have been quite a scene, my father standing there attempting to revoke my enrollment, when there was no Jonas at the college. I bet the revelation hit him like a punch in the stomach. During our conversation, his animosity over his brief humiliation at college was palpable. He wanted to know where I had been for the last 3 months, and what I had done with all that money. However, the situation was so ludicrous that I couldn't stop giggling. After more stern words from my father and some waiting on my part, I decided to tell him the whole truth. I informed him that I had graduated a year ago on a scholarship, and that the money he had been providing for my college tuition had been incredibly beneficial. Then I dropped the bigger bomb. I told him I now had a 6-figure salary and earned more than him. His dismay was evident when he asked whether I was joking, but he knew I wasn't. He must have found it difficult to accept that I was no longer the struggling student he believed I was, but rather an independent man with a meaningful life. I was ready for whatever happened next. As soon as my father realized what I had said, he erupted, accusing me of treachery for keeping them in the dark. He went on to say how much he had done for me, only to be met with this betrayal. Done so much for me? Was he referring to how he and my mother overlooked me for years in favor of their favorite child? Then he came up with the most ludicrous concept possible. He stated that the only way he could forgive me was if I attended Roman's wedding and ensured there was no scandal or gossip about the family. I couldn't believe it. This person was still primarily concerned about his image. I'm not sure why he's so concerned about the family's image. It never affected him before. Anyway, I informed him I didn't need his forgiveness, and I certainly didn't want to be a part of their deception of pretending we were all happy together. My father, still unhappy, attempted to persuade me to attend the wedding. He appeared agitated at this time, but I remained firm. I refused to attend the wedding of the man who had destroyed my childhood. Not only that, but I informed him that I was done with the drama and would cut it off. My father was stunned, but I did not stay mute. I had spent my entire youth taking things in silence, but not anymore. I told him I didn't want any of them to contact me again, and that they could go to their golden son's wedding without me while I enjoyed my life. My father tried to emotionally persuade me again, but this time I refused, talking about how I was his son and how I needed to go to my brother's wedding, but I was done. I just told him that he only had one son, Roman, because that was all they seemed to care about, so they could keep it that way, as I joyfully cut them off. I did not give my father another opportunity to answer. I promptly disconnected the conversation and banned his phone. And this is where I am right now, formally separated from my family's destructive presence. It's a bittersweet sensation because I never expected things to go to this point, but I'm also slightly satisfied since I know it needs to be done. At least now I can live a peaceful life. And if all goes well, maybe I'll be able to start my own family someday. So it has been almost a month since I cut off communication with my family. I thought I was over the drama and manipulation, but they clearly couldn't let it go so easily. A few days ago, I got an unexpected call from an unknown number. My mother sobbed uncontrollably. I'd blocked all of their calls, so I was astonished to receive this one. I chose not to hang up on her since I felt something terrible had occurred, but it wasn't like that. She began telling me how much she misses me and just wants her child back. She said she didn't care what I or Dad did. None of that mattered to her. She just wanted me to be a part of the family again. I was perplexed. I mean, where was this energy before? When I told them I was cutting them off, they seemed unconcerned. And now my mother wants to patch things up? Do you think that was a little suspicious? So I just hung up on her, stating I'd call her later. I had a feeling something wasn't right. So I asked my aunt, my mother's sister, if she had any insights. What she told me was weird and confirmed all of my suspicions. Apparently, Roman's wedding was a complete disaster. His perfect fiancée was actually a complete fraudster. Before the wedding, she persuaded Roman, my parents, and numerous family members to invest all of their savings in some mysterious, once-in-a-lifetime investment opportunity. So guess what? It was all a scam. She took the money and dipped. There were no weddings. She's gone, as are my family's savings. However, this was not the end of it. My aunt also informed me that my parents were in even more terrible trouble than I had anticipated. Apparently, my father caused a commotion with an employee in his family, resulting in a big loss for his already dying company. Then everything clicked for me. This is why he was so eager to get me to the wedding. He wanted to save his image by showing how much he valued his beautiful family and all of those traits. But of course, this did not work. This drama involving Roman and his fiancée just added to the bad news. So basically, they're losing money left and right. To make matters worse, they used their house as collateral for a loan in an effort to save the company. Unfortunately, this backfired, and they are now on the verge of losing their home. They had to move into a rundown trailer or studio apartment because it was all they could afford. My mother did not call to say she missed me or wanted me back. They badly needed me. They recognized that I was doing well for myself and wanted to use me as a safety net. I understood everything. They were out of options, and I was their only hope. So I didn't play that game. I was not about to be dragged back into their mess, especially now that I had seen the whole picture. They didn't care about me since they were too busy catering to Roman's needs. But here's the catch. My parents are now bickering with Roman because they blame him for everything, including the wedding debacle and the money they lost. It's actually rather funny. The golden child upon which they base their lives has ruined everything. And to be honest, I was relieved that they were finally recognizing their mistakes. Anyway, I couldn't care less. I'm staying out of the controversy. My mother called, and I blocked her again. I was not going to allow her to dominate my emotions. But did this stop my parents from reaching out? No, definitely not. They were needy and clingy, refusing to acknowledge that things were not going their way. My parents ultimately arrived at my house. Don't ask me how. I am not sure how they obtained the address, but I suspect they pestered some of my old pals for information. But it doesn't matter. What is crucial is that they came to my door, reminding me of family values and how, as their older son, I was their responsibility. And now, they are mine. Do I need to mention it? Of course, I slammed the door in their faces as they begged me for help, stating that they were broke and had spent their last money on a flight to meet me. This is unfortunate news for them, but I wasn't going to help. This is not the end. A few days later, Roman arrived at my house, practically crying and pleading for assistance. He admitted that he missed having his older brother in his life. I'm not sure what big brother he's referring to, because all I remember is him bullying me. I warned him, but he kept begging, saying Mom and Dad were going to cut him off soon because they were unhappy at him for putting them in this situation. It was all for nothing. Roman had the same destiny as my parents. I locked the door in his face and told him that if any of them returned, I would call the cops. I have not heard from any of them since then, and I am not concerned. I'm done with this toxic family. I'm a little disappointed that my contact with my family ended abruptly. Nobody wants this outcome, not deep down. A part of me has always yearned for reconciliation, a day when they will finally see me, appreciate me, and love me totally. But a part of me, the hopeful son, needed to develop. Now I live in a world I built. Every money I've earned, every action I've taken, has been entirely mine. And that comforts me, even if it means leaving them behind. Maybe one day I'll forgive them. Perhaps someday they will genuinely apologize. But until then, I'll defend my peace, future, and the life I've labored for. Alone, but finally free. Thanks for watching and diving into this wild family drama with me. If you love Reddit family drama, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next one.